I want you to picture a classroom for a second. But not, a normal classroom.
Okay.
I want you to just erase the chalkboard. Erase the rows of, uncomfortable wooden desks.
Right. The smell of dry erase markers.
Oh, exactly. Erase all of that and then expand the walls until they hit the edges of the universe.
Wow. Okay. That is a massive way to open a show.
And the teacher isn't some professor in a tweed jacket. The teacher is existence itself. And the final exam, it's not on paper.
It's on the state of your soul.
It's on the state of your soul. And honestly, that might be the only scale that fits what we're talking about today.
I think you're right. It's the only way to frame it.
Welcome back to the deep dive, everyone. Today is going to be, it's going to be heavy, but in a good way.
A necessary way.
We are stepping back into the flow of the Tafsiri Qura'an lecture series, and we're specifically tackling week 2.
Right. And for anyone just joining us, last time we looked at that very first command of Revelation. Read. Exactly. But today, we're pivoting. I mean, it's one thing to be told to read. It's a completely different thing to understand the syllabus.
The syllabus, that's the perfect word for it. We're looking at the commentary on Surah Al-Alaq and Surah An-Nisa as analyzed by Dr. Haider Riza. And we're asking a question that it haunts a lot of us, especially if you spend any time online. If we have all the information in the world right here in our pockets, why do we feel so lost?
Why do we feel less knowledgeable in that deep spiritual sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Less knowledgeable than people who, lived in deserts 1,000 years ago with none of this.
It's the paradox of our age, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're just drowning in data, but we are absolutely starving for wisdom.
And Dr. Riza's lectures, which we should say represent over 40 years of incredible research and scholarship in Islamic mysticism and Quranic exegesis, they just tackle this head on.
They really do. It's the central problem he's addressing.
Okay, so before we really get into the meat of it, we need to set the ground rules just for clarity. We are exploring these concepts primarily through the lens of the Shia school of thought, because that's the source material we're working with. And of course, all prophets and revered religious personalities we mentioned are treated with the absolute utmost respect.
And we really have to express our deep, deep gratitude to Dr. Haider Riza for this guidance. His work is the map we're following.
It really is.
And that leads to a necessary disclaimer. The summary and the explanations we're presenting here, they're generated with some AI assistance, mainly for the purpose of recapping the lecture. So if we misunderstand something or misinterpret it or get it wrong,
that's on us.
That is 100% on us. Dr. Haider Riza bears no responsibility for any of our inaccuracies. We're just the map makers trying to sketch out the vast territory he's already explored.
Well said. Okay, map makers, let's look at the terrain. The lecture starts with a hook that, it really grabbed me. It's all about the definition of knowledge. Ilm.
Right.
I think if you ask the average person on the street what makes someone knowledgeable, they'd say, oh, they've read a lot of books, they have a PhD, they'd be great on a trivia team.
Right. We just equate knowledge with memory, with data retention.
Yeah.
If you can memorize the entire Encyclopedia Britannica, we call you knowledgeable.
Sure.
But the lecture makes this distinction that's, frankly, it's a bit insulting to our modern ego.
How so?
It says that person isn't a scholar. That person is an information bank.
An information bank. Ugh, that feels cold.
It is cool. You're a vault. You're a hard drive full of facts.
Okay.
But you are not a scholar. Not in the Quranic sense. Because in this worldview, ilm isn't data accumulation. It's described as something totally different.
Which is?
Nur.
A light?
And the defining characteristic of this light isn't that it helps you, pass a test or win an argument.
Okay.
It's that it gives you something called tazaruf.
Tazaruf. Okay, let's unpack that. That sounds almost like a legal term or something.
It kind of is. It relates to authority, or maybe better, the capability to act. The lecture uses this brilliant analogy that makes it so clear.
Let's hear it.
Imagine a person who has read every single book ever written on aerodynamics. They know the physics of lift, drag, thrust. All of it.
The expert, the PhD.
And on top of that, they've memorized every manual on swimming, the density of water, the mechanics of a perfect backstroke. They know it all.
So on paper, they're a master of both flight and swimming.
Yeah, but here's the catch. They've never actually been in a plane. They've never jumped into a pool.
Yeah.
So if I take this expert and I throw them in the deep end of the water, what happens?
They drown instantly.
They drown. Why? Because they have information, but they lack capability. They lack tazaruf.
I see.
Dr. Riza's point is that true ilm is a light that illuminates reality upon the heart. And when you have that light, you don't just know about reality. You can interact with it effectively. You can improve it. You can operate within it.
So a true scholar, an alim, isn't just a walking Wikipedia. They are someone who can actually apply that light to navigate the darkness. They can swim.
They can swim, they can fly, they have agency.
And this light, it isn't something you just get by, what, paying tuition and buying a bunch of textbooks?
Not at all.
Yeah.
The source quotes a narration that says, knowledge isn't gained merely by learning in that academic sense. It's a light that God places in the heart of the one who strives for bandagi.
Servitude.
Yes. It's a gift that's bestowed. It's not a transaction you make at a bookstore.
This idea of navigating brings us to a part of the lecture that I found, really confronting. It references a sermon from Imam Ali in the Naj al-Balagha, and he essentially categorizes the entire human race into 3 buckets.
Sermon 147. It's famous for a reason. It just strips away all the social masks we wear.
It really does, because usually when you hear these 3 types of people lists, you can kind of squint and fit yourself into the top category.
You find a loophole?
Exactly. But this one makes it hard. So let's walk through them. Group 1 is the goal, right?
The Alim Irabani, the divine scholar. This is the person who actually possesses that light of truth we were just talking about.
They're connected.
They're connected to the source. They don't just know the truth. They embody it. They are stable, anchored.
Okay, so these are the prophets, the imams, the great saints, the spiritual 1%, so to speak.
You could say that.
Yeah.
Then you have the second group, the Muta'alim.
The seeker.
The seeker, the student on the path of salvation. Now, this person might not have the full light yet. They're struggling. They stumble.
But they're trying.
But, and this is the absolute key, they are on the path. They know they don't know. And they are actively, sincerely searching for that source of light.
I feel like that's the target demographic for this deep dive, right? We're the seekers. We're all trying to figure this out.
Hopefully. I mean, that's the aspiration. Because the third group,
the source calls them Hamajin Ra.
which is often translated as the riffraff. And Dr. Riza's translation is visceral. But the literal imagery in the sermon is even more specific, and it's devastating.
What's the imagery?
It refers to the foam on top of churning water, or like tiny insects that are just blown about by the wind.
Insects blown by the wind. That is incredibly harsh. It sounds almost dehumanizing. Why use language that's so strong?
Because it's meant to be a shock to the system. It's a spiritual wake-up call.
Yeah.
I mean, think about the physics of it. An insect in a windstorm? Does it have a destination?
No, it just goes wherever the wind pushes it. No agency at all.
Exactly. It has no core stability, no anchor. The lecture describes these people as those who follow every shout, every trend.
I mean, this feels uncomfortably relevant to the social media age.
It's the current thing phenomenon.
Totally. The wind blows east, so they go east. A new influencer says to go west, so they go west. In the spiritual hierarchy, Dr. Riza notes, they are described as worthless, precisely because they lack that critical connection to an unchanging truth.
It is the defining characteristic of our time. You wake up, you check your feed, the algorithm tells you, today you're angry about topic A. So you're angry.
Right.
By lunchtime, the wind is shifted, and now everyone's excited about topic B, so now you're excited.
Yeah.
You aren't living, you're just drifting.
You're the foam, just
Yes.
reacting to the waves.
And the really terrifying part of the lecture is the implication he draws from this.
Which is?
If you are not actively anchoring yourself as a seeker group 2, then gravity, by default, pulls you into group 3.
There's no neutral ground.
There is no neutral ground. You're either climbing the mountain or you are blowing in the wind, period.
Wow. That is a wake-up call. So, okay, if we want to stop blowing in the wind, we need an anchor. We need education.
Real education.
And the source material breaks down the divine syllabus into 3 distinct levels. It's based on that verse from Surah Al-Alaq. He taught man what he knew not.
Right. And Dr. Riza connects this verse to Surah An-Nisa, verse 113, to basically lay out the entire curriculum of the Creator. It's amazing.
Let's break it down. Level 1 is Al-Kitab, the book. But we aren't talking about a physical paperback here, are we?
Not in this specific context, no. Dr. Riza interprets Al-Kitab as the book of nature, the laws that are written into the very fabric of creation itself.
So, physics, biology, chemistry.
All of it. The lines written in horizons, as the Qur'an says. This is the knowledge of the seen world.
This is the stuff we learn in regular school, and frankly, humanity has kind of crushed level 1. We're really, really good at this.
We are. We observed the birds. We decoded the laws of aerodynamics, which are God's laws written in the sky. And we built 747s.
We study buoyancy and build massive ships.
We studied the atom and unlocked nuclear energy. This is the knowledge of names or attributes. It gives us power over the material world. It gives us that tazarruf.
So science and technology, they fall under this divine curriculum. It's not this religion versus science battle we always hear about.
Absolutely not. The lecture makes it crystal clear. Mastering the physical world is part of the syllabus. But, and this is a huge but,
Here it comes.
the lecture points out that you could ace level 1.
Huh.
You could have a Nobel Prize in physics. And you can still be a monster.
How so?
Because science gives you capability. It does not give you morality.
Ah, I see. I can use my knowledge of physics to build an MRI machine to save a life. Or I can use the exact same physics to build a missile to wipe out a city. The physics doesn't care. The equation EMCO doesn't have a conscience.
Precisely. Which is why level 1 is totally insufficient on its own. It's like having the most powerful computer hardware imaginable, but no operating system.
So that brings us to level 2.
Level 2, Al-Hikmah. Wisdom. The Deen. The code of life.
So this is the software, the operating system.
This is the ethical framework. As the expert commentary points out, you cannot use a microscope to discover ethics. You cannot point a telescope at a distant galaxy and find out why you should pray or how to connect with your creator or what constitutes justice.
You can't derive thou shalt not steal from a calculus problem.
Exactly. This knowledge requires revelation. It's what elevates a human being from a purely animalistic existence, just eating, sleeping, reproducing, to a civilized spiritual existence. It creates social order. It tells us how to use the immense power we gained at level 1.
Okay, so level 1 is the hardware of the universe. Level 2 is the software for living a just life. But then there's a level 3. The source calls this malam takun talam, what you could not know.
And this is the highest tier, the PhD level. The phrasing here is so important. It's not just what you didn't know. It is what you could not know.
Meaning, no matter how hard I studied, no matter how many books I read, I could never figure this out on my own.
Correct. This is knowledge of the unseen, the gaib, the deep realities of the soul, the specific nature of the divine attributes, the mysteries of existence. This is totally inaccessible to human intellect or observation.
So how do we get it?
It is exclusively gifted by God to his chosen servants, the prophets and the imams, and then kind of trickles down to those who are ready for it.
The lecture calls it the PhD level of spiritual reality. It's learning things you didn't even know existed to ask about.
And that implies something beautiful, doesn't it? The journey of learning never ends. Even when you master the physical laws and the ethical laws, there's a vast, infinite ocean of unseen reality that can only be unveiled by the divine teacher himself.
Okay, so we have this incredible curriculum, hardware, software, and then the divine cloud, basically.
I like that.
But here's where the lecture takes a really serious turn, because it's not enough to just download this curriculum into your brain.
No.
Dr. Riza talks about a litmus test for true knowledge, and this goes right back to our information bank problem.
Yes, this is a critical pivot in the entire discussion. The argument is this. If you learn something truly profound, it must change your state.
Yes, Dr. Fact.
It has to. If you acquire knowledge and your behavior, your demeanor, your heart,
Yeah.
if all that remain exactly the same, then you haven't actually acquired ilm. You've just acquired data.
And the specific emotion or the state that proves you have real knowledge is called kashiyat.
Kashiyat. It's often translated as fear, but that's so simple and misleading.
It's not like being afraid of a monster under the bed.
Not at all. It's a very specific blend of fear, awe, reverence, and trembling. It's the involuntary reaction of a heart that suddenly recognizes greatness, immense, overwhelming greatness.
The lecture uses a really accessible analogy here to explain it, the royal analogy. I love this because it makes this abstract spiritual concept feel very physical.
It's a great teaching tool.
Let's walk through it. So imagine you're walking down a busy street, you're on your phone, you're thinking about your day.
Right, and you pass a man in just plain clothes. You don't know who he is. You might even bump into him and say, "Excuse me, check your watch." Maybe even be a little rude if he's in your way.
Right, he's just a guy, I'm busy, I have things to do, I feel nothing.
You feel nothing because you have no knowledge of his status. But then, imagine someone you trust leans over and whispers in your ear, "Do you know who that is?" That is the king. That is the ultimate authority of this land, who holds the power of life and death in his hands.
Suddenly, the air just leaves the room.
Instantly, your posture changes. Your shoulders might slump. You become hyper-attentive. You might even tremble a little bit. Your voice lowers. You become humble. Why?
Because I realized who is in front of me.
Exactly. That piece of knowledge, not a book, just a sentence, forced a physical and emotional reaction. That is kashyyyat.
So the lecture is saying that a true scholar, someone who really knows God, cannot be casual about it. They can't be arrogant.
How could they be? If you claim to know God, the creator of the galaxies, the sustainer of all existence,
Yeah.
but you have no kashyyyat, no trembling in your heart, no profound humility, then do you really know him?
Or do you just know about him?
That's the devastating distinction. Knowing about God versus knowing God.
Yeah.
It explains so much. It explains why some deeply religious people can be so, well, so arrogant.
It's true.
And this leads to a very stark warning in the lecture. Knowledge without kashyyyat isn't just useless. It is incredibly dangerous.
More dangerous than ignorance.
Far more dangerous.
Yeah.
Dr. Riza points out that throughout history, specifically in the times of the Imams, their most dangerous enemies were not the ignorant masses.
They were the other scholars.
They were the ones who knew the text, they knew the prophecies, they knew the lineage, they recognized the truth when they saw it, but they fought it.
How is that even possible? How can you see the truth? You see the king standing right there and you still fight him.
Because the knowledge sat in a vessel, a heart, that was already full of arrogance, jealousy, or the love of power.
I see.
So the knowledge didn't produce kashyyyat, it produced rivalry. It became a tool for the ego. The source uses this powerful imagery to contrast the two. It compares this false structure of knowledge to a spider web.
A spider web on Kabbalah. Okay, I mean, the spider web looks intricate. It looks engineered. It's geometric. It's complex.
But the Qur'an calls it the weakest of houses. It's destroyed by a single breath of wind. You contrast that with the strong rope, the irwatul wuthqa of true belief. A scholar without awe builds a spider web. It looks impressive to the flies, the riffraff, but a single gust of real-world trial destroys it completely.
This brings us to what feels like the absolute core of this entire episode. If knowledge is the seed, and the result should be this awe and this dignity, why does it go so wrong so often? Why does the exact same seed of knowledge produce a saint in one person and an arrogant tyrant in another?
The answer is simple, but it's profound. The difference is the soil.
Soil.
This introduces the critical concept of tazkiyah, purification of the self. And Dr. Riza uses an extended agricultural metaphor here that is just perfect for explaining the actual work required.
I love this part of the lecture. He compares the human soul to a piece of land. Let's break down the farming process he describes, because I think we often treat spirituality like a fast food drive-through. We just want the meal right now.
Right. But any farmer, any gardener will tell you that is a recipe for disaster. The very first step, before you even think about planting a single seed.
You have to clear the land.
You have to get the rocks out, the big, heavy rocks.
And the weeds.
The weeds, the old roots from previous bad crops, the excess salt in the soil. In the soul, these represent the spiritual diseases.
Like jealousy.
Jealousy or hasad, greed, arrogance, love of fame, love of the world. Dr. Riza argues that if these traits are present, they are like rocks in the soil. They are not passive.
So if I try to plant a delicate seed, let's say the seed of divine knowledge, on top of a giant rock of arrogance.
What happens? It might sprout for a day, it might look green for a moment, but the first bit of sun will scorch it because it has no depth. The roots can't go down.
It has no foundation.
None. And this is why tazkiyah, this purification, is the absolute prerequisite for ilm. You cannot become a vessel for divine light if that vessel is already full of spiritual trash.
There's another analogy he uses that I found even more visceral than the rocks in the soil.
The dirty pot.
The dirty pot. Yeah, this one hits hard.
It does. Imagine you have the finest ingredients in the entire world. Gourmet, organic, pure, expensive. This represents the revelation, the Word of God.
Or the best possible stuff.
The best. But you decide to cook this exquisite meal in a pot that hasn't been washed in years. It's caked with filth. Maybe it's even coated with a thin layer of poison or bacteria. What happens to your gourmet meal?
The food becomes poison.
The ingredients weren't the problem, were they?
No, the vessel was.
The vessel was corrupted. And this explains the evil scholar phenomenon perfectly. They take the pure verses of the Qur'an, but because their heart, the pot, is contaminated with jealousy or personal ambition, the result is toxic. They use religion for power, for division, for their own ego.
So tazkiyah, purification, it isn't just a nice-to-have spiritual practice. It's not just about being a good person. It's a safety requirement.
It's the difference between the final dish being life-giving medicine or deadly poison. And going back to the farming analogy for a second, the work doesn't stop at just clearing the rocks. Once the land is finally clear, then, and only then, do you plant the seed. the seed of faith, of Aman. But the work still isn't done.
No, of course not. You have to water it.
You have to irrigate it constantly with good deeds. You have to add fertilizer, which could be deeper study, or the company of righteous people. And crucially, you have to protect that little sapling from pests.
And the pests would be external negative influences.
Bad friends, toxic media environments, sins that come and nibble away at your faith when you're not paying attention. The harvest, that beautiful fruit of karamat or human dignity, and the encounter with the divine, that only comes after this long, grueling, constant process of cultivation.
It really reframes the whole idea of a spiritual journey. It's not a sprint, it's a lifetime of farming, a growing season.
That's a great way to put it.
And speaking of the harvest, there's a fascinating point made about paradise. I've always thought of paradise as just one place. You know, you go there if you're good. But the lecture distinguishes between two very different types.
Yes, this is a beautiful theological nuance. Dr. Riza mentions the paradise of deeds and the paradise of inheritance.
Okay, break that down for us. What's the difference?
The paradise of deeds is the one we build ourselves. It corresponds directly to our actions, our prayers, our charity, our fasting. It's the structure we construct brick by brick. You do a good deed, you get a brick for your palace.
Okay, that makes intuitive sense. I pray, I build my palace.
Right. But then there's a paradise that is an inheritance. This is something different. It's linked to ilm and the expansion of the soul itself. It is a reality that is already created, distinct from the one your deeds are making. The lecture suggests that true knowledge opens gates to these higher realities, Darjat.
So, a person with deep knowledge, that light we talked about at the beginning, they have access to levels of existence that a person with just good deeds might not.
Yes, because their capacity to receive God's grace is larger. Think of it this way. Two people go to the ocean with a container to get some water. One person brings a thimble. The other person brings a massive barrel. They both go to the water's edge and fill their containers to the brim. They are both full.
But the barrel holds exponentially more water.
Exactly. Tazkiyah and ilm don't change the ocean. They expand the size of your bucket. They expand your capacity to receive the infinite divine.
I really like that. We're not earning more, we're expanding our capacity to receive what's already there.
Precisely.
But let's get practical for a minute, because the listener might be thinking, okay, I get it, I'm sold. My soil has rocks. I know I have some jealousy. I have a bit of an ego. I am definitely the riffraff sometimes, blowing in the wind.
We all are.
So how do I actually get the rocks out? What do I do tonight?
And the lecture anticipates this. There was a Q&A section that addresses this exact question, specifically focusing on jealousy, hasad, which is described as one of the most destructive and stubborn weeds in the garden of the soul.
So what's the prescription? How do we start weeding this garden?
The first step he outlines is marifat, which means diagnosis, awareness. Before you do anything else, you have to intellectually recognize and believe that jealousy is a cancer.
Not just that it's bad, but that it's a disease.
A toxic disease. Dr. Riza emphasizes that you have to really know the toxicity of the trait. You have to be convinced that this trait is hurting you far more than it's hurting the person you're jealous of.
It's like that saying, jealousy is drinking poison and hoping the other person dies.
That's it, exactly. And until you truly believe it's poison, you won't stop drinking it. That's step one.
Okay, so I recognize it's poison. What's step two?
Step two is environment control. His advice is simple and direct. Walk away from the cliff.
Walk away from the cliff.
If certain gatherings, certain friends, or even certain social media apps are the things that trigger that feeling of jealousy or arrogance in you, you have to cut them off, at least for a time. You cannot heal in the same environment that made you sick.
That is tough advice, but it's necessary. If looking at Instagram makes you hate your life, the cure is to delete Instagram.
Precisely. You have to protect the sapling. And the third practical step he gives? Truthfulness.
Truthfulness. Okay, how does honesty cure jealousy? That feels like a bit of a disconnect.
It's so profound when you think about it. Jealousy is almost always born from a lie.
How so?
It's the lie that God made a mistake in giving someone else a blessing, or the lie that you deserve it more, or the lie that their success somehow diminishes you. These are all falsehoods.
Right.
So cultivating radical honesty in all of your dealings with others and with yourself acts as a powerful cleanser. It realigns you with reality. It forces you to admit, God in his wisdom gave that to them. God in his wisdom gave this to me, and God is just.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a deep connection. And Dr. Riza also recommends a specific resource for this kind of self-surgery.
He does. He highly recommends Imam Khomeini's book, Chehel Hadith, or 40 Hadiths. He specifically mentions that the first 10 or 11 Hadiths in that book are basically a surgical manual for the soul.
A surgical manual.
Yes. They diagnose spiritual diseases like pride, jealousy, hypocrisy, and then they offer step-by-step cures based on the Qur'an and the traditions of the Prophet and his family.
We'll have to check that out. It sounds like a pretty rigorous read.
It is, but as the lecture reminds us, and this is the most comforting part of the whole discussion, we aren't doing any of this alone.
Right. We talked about God as the creator, but here he is emphasized as the Allama, the ultimate teacher.
The lecture offers so much hope here.
Mhm.
It basically says that if the student shows sincerity in clearing the soil, if you're genuinely on your hands and knees trying to pull out those rocks of jealousy and arrogance,
Then what?
the teacher will ensure the knowledge is conveyed, the light will be given.
That's a huge relief. So I don't have to be a genius. I just have to be a sincere farmer.
You just have to be a sincere farmer. The source even says that if people or circumstances seem to be blocking your spiritual growth, it's often just a reflection of the self's own unreadiness. But when the self is purified, God himself removes the obstacles. He paves the way for the sincere seeker.
It puts the responsibility squarely back on us, but it also gives us the ultimate backup, the ultimate support system.
It does. It changes the question from, why isn't God teaching me, to why isn't my desk cleared and ready for the lesson?
As we start to wrap up this deep dive, let's just look at the big picture for a second. The whole journey.
Yeah.
We started with the command to read. We realized that reading really means receiving light. We learned that this light demands a trembling heart khashiyat. And we just found out that the light can only stabilize and grow in a purified vessel through tazkiyah.
It's a complete, interconnected ecosystem. You can't have one part without the others. And the ultimate goal of it all, as Dr. Riza touches upon, is justice. Quist.
But not just legal justice, right? Not
Right.
just in courts and with judges.
No, justice of the soul, putting everything in its rightful place. When your intellect rules over your base desires, that is internal justice. When a human being willingly submits to the divine, that is cosmic justice.
It's about order.
It's about divine order. And the aim of this entire divine education is to produce that divine scholar, a person who doesn't just know about God, but through whom God's beautiful attributes become visible to the world.
A person who reflects the light.
Yes, a person who has moved from being that piece of foam, the riffraff blown by the wind, to becoming a stable, illuminated mountain that actually guides others.
That is a beautiful place to land. It's been quite a journey through just 1 week of these lectures.
It really has. And we have to remember, this was just our summary of week 2. The source material itself goes so much deeper, and we always encourage our listeners to seek out the original lectures by Dr. Haider Riza to get that full, undiluted spiritual experience.
Absolutely. We are just the guides. The real treasure is in the source.
Indeed.
So here's the final thought we want to leave you with today. We've talked a lot about farming. We've talked a lot about the soil of your heart.
So the question to take with you is this. If your heart is the soil, and your current daily habits, what you watch, what you say, who you spend your time with, if those are your cultivation methods,
What kind of crop is currently growing in that soil?
is it the fruit of wisdom? Is it the flower of awe?
Or is it the weeds of distraction and jealousy?
It's a question only you can answer in the quiet of your own classroom.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you in the next session.
Goodbye, everyone, and happy cultivating!